My name is Jessie Barnfield, and I'm going to talk to you today about the attachment cycle. What is the attachment cycle? The attachment cycle is a cycle during infancy to their caregiver. So when a baby cries, what happens? A caregiver answers them, right? So every time a baby cries, they cry because they are hungry, their diaper is wet, they're hot or they're cold, or maybe they're tired, or maybe they're just lonely and they want human contact. And so there's always a reason behind a baby crying, right? So babies don't know how to manipulate it yet. They don't know how to be selfish yet. They are crying because it's the only form of communication to communicate a need. Every time a caregiver answers an infant, when they cry and they are regulating the baby's stress. So they're teaching the baby how to regulate their stress, how to calm themselves down and to soothe them. The thousands of times this caregiver is answering that baby's cry, the baby is growing an attachment to that caregivers. And this will stay with the baby throughout their whole lives and develop the kind of attachment that the child will have. Newborn son, he will be 3 months old in a couple weeks, and I know when he cries with a little not a high-pitched cry but a little low cry, I know that he is hungry, and it will grow into a really high-pitched cry if not able to get to him as soon as he wants to eat. But as soon as I answer him, I pick him up and I breathe in and I breathe out with him. I regulate his stress, and once he's calm and I've given him the bottle of milk that he's been crying for, all of his stress is gone and I've deregulated it. And the thousands of times that I'm doing this with my son, hopefully he will have a healthy attachment style as he grows older, and it's begun with me and my husband just answering him during this time of infancy, and he can't use his words. But what happens when a infant does not have a caregiver or caregivers that answer their cry and provide the need that it is that they're crying for? Well, when they're about 3 to 6 years old, it looks like a bunch of different behavior issues. When they are from the ages of 2 to 3, it will look like behavior dysregulation, and by that I mean throwing an abnormal amount of temper tantrums or fits, maybe being really quiet and closed off. Any behavior out of the normal of a 2 to 3 year old is what a unhealthy attachment will look like. When they're from the ages of 4 to 6, a lot of children will get looked at as having symptoms of ADD or ADHD. They may even be diagnosed with one of these symptoms, but it could easily be an unhealthy attachment instead of really having ADD or ADHD. Then once the child is older, from ages 8 to 10, they can have symptoms that look like depression, anxiety, agitation, or aggression. And then once they get even older, more into adolescence, they could have symptoms of being bipolar or any other behavior or emotional dysregulation, mental illness. These symptoms could pop up in them from having an unhealthy attachment cycle as an infant. Be asking, why does a unhealthy attachment cycle cause children to have emotional dysregulation or behavior dysregulation. And it's because every time a caregiver answers a baby's cry, and they're regulating their stress, they're telling that part of the brain that this is normal. It's a normal feeling to feel hungry, and you can make yourself calm again. And they are teaching that child how to make themselves calm when a normal feeling appears in their life. This is when, if you've ever heard of our parasympathetic nervous system, that is what is lowering our stress and our fear when discomfort comes into our lives, such as hunger, thirst, exhaustion, uncomfortability, being overheated, being too cold, and our inhibitory neurotransmitters are going into our brain, making us calm again, because we would have had a healthy attachment as an infant, telling us that these feelings, we know how to make them calm again, and we know the solution. So a healthy infant, once they grow up throughout their lives, whenever something comes that is throws us off our track, let's just say, a healthy child will be secure in knowing I can make myself calm. I can bring myself back to who I am. I know who I am. They will have a voice. They will be able to self-regulate, trust others to help them self-regulate. They will have a sense of worthiness, knowing that they have the ability to bring themselves back down again, and they will have a good, healthy mindset during times of stress. Now, a child that didn't have a caregiver or caregivers that answered them, or answered them in a loving, kind way, maybe they got answered to and they got yelled at as a child, as an infant even. Maybe they were left in a soiled diaper all the time, for many, many reasons. This can cause the child to have a overabundance of excitatory neurotransmitters, and these are what causes our blood pressure to rise. They tell us when there's fear. They can make our face red. They can increase our anxiety, and they will go to our sympathetic nervous system, and that is what also causes our heart to race, and it also causes our face to get red and heated. I don't know if you've ever seen a baby cry. When my son cries and he's hungry and he just doesn't want to wait anymore, his face is red, 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 and he even starts to sweat sometimes because he works himself up so much. So when an infant is constantly put into their sympathetic nervous system, they eventually, it almost becomes normal to them to be in that. And as they get older, that is why they have ADHD and ADD symptoms, or they're more prone to have depression, anxiety, bipolar, because it's become normal for them almost to always see things as being stressful, because they are always in that mode of stress as an infant. They have had to learn how to be on their own at a time when they should not have been, and they are in a mode of survival all the time, looking out for themselves, trying to figure out how to survive for themselves because no one was there to help them. And this will usually cause them to grow up to be an adult that it's hard for them to stick up for themselves, to trust others, to even at a job, if a boss, if it might be hard for them to get along with their boss, to trust their boss has the best for them. They may be more prone to be in an abusive relationship, or even be a loner. They may not want to trust anyone or let anyone in at all, and feel the need to be completely independent from people and just worry about themselves. These can all be caused from an unhealthy attachment cycle as an infant, which is insane to think that something from the ages of 0 months to 12 months can really set the foundation for the whole life of a child. But thankfully, through TBRI, we can help a child that is in a chronic state of distress from having an unhealthy attachment, not being answered to, or being answered to in a negative way. We can help them regulate their behaviors through TBRI and growing that connection and that trust with them, and giving them a hopeful future of having a healthy mindset, having a trust with others, being able to self-regulate through psychoeducation. So that's a quick gist of the attachment cycle. I hope this was helpful. It's a lot to learn, a lot to take in. Encourage you to look more into it. And yeah, thanks for listening.